saviour. I like that. Yeah, he is. Yeah,
Saint
but
Fernandes.
Saint Fernandes. Listen, if we get Champions League football that season, I'll be pushing for that.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Q&A Extra, where we delve deeper into a topic from this week's Q&A. I am joined by Stretford Paddock's own Jay Motte. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you? You all right?
All good. So this question is for you. Are you ready?
Yeah, go on.
So this is from Ryan Yowell. I think Yowell we'll go with. So give us your Premier League team of the season. Right. What formation are you going with?
I'll go with 4-3-3.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you know, you could probably switch it to a 4-2-3-1 if you were, you know, if you wanted to during the game. But it starts out as a 4-3-3.
Okay. Who's your keeper?
I'm going to go with Dean Henderson. I think Sheffield United have absolutely exceeded everyone's expectations, and he's been a big part of that. Everyone thought they'd be fighting against relegation. And briefly, they were in with a decent shout of top four. And, you know, he's been a massive part of their success this season. Done really well. Obviously, as a Manchester United fan, I'm buzzing for him because he's still a United player. And he's come into the Premier League, youngster, only I think 22. Often having a lot of shots to face and doing really well as well. So yeah, I'm gonna plump with him. I know there's probably people be out there going, well, you know, you look at some of the title, look at Liverpool winning the title, you look at some of the clubs that are above him, like Leicester and Man City, what have you. But I think Dean Henderson's had a great season, so he's in there for me.
Yep. And defensively, what are you going for?
Well, on Paddock, we shot something before lockdown about who our player of the season had been so far for United, and I went with this player, so I'm going to go with him overall, and that's Wan-Bissaka. Listen, I know Trent Alexander-Arnold's had a fantastic season.
I was going to say, I can almost hear the Liverpool fans. I can almost read it in the comments now. How can you go for Wan-Bissaka over Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Trent Alexander-Arnold's had a fantastic season, and I think he's been one of Liverpool's best players. I think, though, if you look at Wan-Bissaka, the argument between Trent and Wan-Bissaka is Trent's a lot better going forward, Wan-Bissaka's a lot better defensively. I think that's the only sort of argument you can have. When it comes to who's had the better season, for me, I'm going to go with Wan-Bissaka purely simply for the fact he came into Manchester United, big money move, and he's been one of our best players, if not our best player this season, which is pretty amazing for a youngster to come into a club like Manchester United after only having one full season at Crystal Palace as well. So come in here and do what he's done. He's been great. So yeah, I'm going to put him in there as my first choice right back over Trent Alexander-Arnold. Forgive me, Liverpool fans. Don't worry though, you've got a few players in here. It's not all going to be Liverpool.
Okay, who else have you gone for in defence?
Well, there you go. This will hopefully sort of calm some of the Liverpool fans down. I've gone with Virgil Van Dyke. I think it's a testament to his levels that he's almost not been spoken about as much this season, yet he's still had a great season. I think last season he had one of the best seasons we've seen from a central defender in years, and everyone was raving about him, and he hasn't had the same sort of accolades this time round, but he's been essential part of their success. You know, you look at that Liverpool defence and he leads it. He's a leader, he's almost unbeatable. So yeah, Virgil van Dijk's in there for me. I think he'd walk into any team on the planet, and as a United fan, it pains me to say it, but he's just an excellent centre back, and he's had an excellent season. Yeah.
Who's next to him?
I've gone. This is a bit more left field. Some people may question it, but I think Leicester they've had 3/4 of a good season, or 2/3 of a good season, and Johnny Evans has been a big part of that. Obviously, you know, they lost Harry Maguire, and I know Siensu's come in and done a great job. But I think Johnny Evans has been one of the reasons Leicester have been challenging for that top four, and at one point looked nailed on for that top four. For much of the season, he's used all his experience. He's a vital player for them. He's a leader. He does everything you'd want from a central defender. And I think he's always been a little bit underrated, Johnny Evans. You know, there was a couple of years ago when I think the likes of City were looking at him, bringing him in when he was at West Brom, and I couldn't understand why. I know it didn't quite work out long term for him at Manchester United, but even at United, you know, he did help us win a title, and he was an important part of the team for quite a few years. He just wasn't probably up to the standards before him because he was coming off the back of Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic, which is never going to be easy. But he's shone at Leicester. He's had a great season, so I'm going to give him a place in my team of the season.
Brilliant. And at the left-back position?
Well, he's not my favourite player in terms of some of his tweets and his personality, but I have to sort of hold my hands up and say he's a fantastic fullback, especially going forward. and it's Andy Robertson from Liverpool again. Similar to what I said to Virgil Van Dyke, he had such a good campaign the year before. He's probably not received all the plaudits that he would have received or that he should have received this season, but Robertson's had a great season, been a huge part of the reason Liverpool have walked the Premier League, because they have walked it.
Yeah.
There's no denying that. There wasn't really much of a title chance for Manchester City or anyone else. It's been more of a procession, and again, he's a reason behind that. Great going forward. Even defensively, you could question him slightly, but I don't think there's much questions there, because that Liverpool defence does do really well. So, yeah, Andy Robertson at left back. I think he's the standout left back for me.
Yeah. Who else is in your midfield then?
Another Leicester player, funnily enough, Wilfred Ndidi. I think he's one of those players that they miss massively when he doesn't play. When he's not playing, Leicester are a different team, and I think they've struggled at times when he hasn't played, and that's one of the reasons they've not always had the most consistent form. They had that wonderful run, and then it's tailed off a little bit. Unsung hero of that team almost. Does that job in midfield. As I've said earlier, if he's not in that team, they miss him. If he's in that team, he does what you'd want from a midfielder in that role as well. So, probably not the player everyone would look at, but then when you think about it, I think most teams would have Wilfred Ndidi in their starting 11. He is a fantastic midfielder, so I've gone with him. And there was rumours at one point that maybe Manchester United were in for him, and I loved him at Old Trafford. I think he's a great player, and he does well in the Leicester. Other clubs maybe looking at him as well.
And next up, who have you got?
This is going to upset a lot of people, but I don't care. Don't care. I've gone with Bruno Fernandes.
Good.
Yes, I know he came in January, but you look at Manchester United's form pre-Bruno and post-Bruno, and it's almost like a different team. Just before Bruno arrived, we were beating 2-0 at home to Burnley, and everyone thought that was it. Top 4 chance had gone. The team was in disarray. Pressure was on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Bruno came in, and it's just a complete turnaround. I know there's other reasons for that. Anthony Martial kicked on and had a fantastic end to the season. Pogba came back from injury, of course. Marcus Rashford came back eventually from injury. Other players around him have done well, but he's a big reason for them playing so well. He's elevated the entire team. I know he's not played nearly as many games as other midfielders, but the games he has played, he's been fantastic. Even when he's not quite at the races, he's still effective. He's one of those players who can have a bad game and still get you an assist or a goal. So, yeah, for me, I put Bruno Fernandes in there because he's the reason that going into the last game, Manchester United is still in with a chance of the top 4.
If anything, he's almost like a saviour, I feel.
Saviour, I like that, yeah, he is. Yeah,
Saint Fernandes.
Saint Fernandes. Listen, if we get Champions League football that season, I'll be pushing for that.
I can see you at the front of that campaign. Fernandes for sainthood.
Time to anoint Saint Fernandes. Hey, geography.
Oh, God. Who else have you got in your midfield then, Jay?
One of the players of the season overall for me, if not the player of the season, Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Just
fantastic.
We're so used to it, aren't we now, with Kevin De Bruyne? Unfortunately, as a United fan, he does things other midfielders can't. He just creates. He scores goals, creates goals. He can get past defenders and midfielders. He's got the lot. And he's just been a fantastic player for Manchester United. Then I wish he was at Manchester United.
You wish.
Really honest. Yeah, I know. For Man City, he has, and they miss him when he's not played. They sort of got away with it a little bit last season when he was injured for much of it. But this season, it's not been their season. But that's not because of Kevin De Bruyne. They've had problems in defence that he can't help, and he's not had anything to do with. I think he's suffered a little bit from not having Fernandinho behind him, but he's still had an amazing season, and he's arguably overall the player of the season. And I think any team fears Kevin De Bruyne, and I know as a United fan we do when he plays against us.
And finally, who's your front 3?
I've gone with, on the left, I've gone with Marcus Rashford, and that's not just because he feeds starving kids. He's had a fantastic season. He's had his greatest ever season in terms of goals. Yes, he scored penalties as well, but take away his penalties, he still had a very productive season. He scares defenders, he can run at defenders. He's sort of altered his role a little bit from the previous seasons, where he'd been tried down the middle. Now he's moved over to the left and he's shone there. He's happy to play in that role. Yes, he can move over to the middle. He can even drift over to the right if he needs to. But by and large, he's operated on that left flank and he's done a fantastic job there. Carried the team for much of the sort of barren months, if you will, going over the sort of the New Year and January times before the arrival of Bruno, when we had Pogba out and Martial was out as well. It was all about Marcus Rashford. Hence the reason we played him when he was injured. And he always stepped up. No matter what with Marcus Rashford, you're always going to get that 100% effort. he's got the ability. We know that, and we're just beginning to see him add that finishing touch as well to it in his game. So it's been a great season for Marcus Rashford on and off the pitch, and he makes my my team of the year.
Definitely. Who else have you got?
Again, I keep saying this with Liverpool players, and I don't want to repeat myself or sound like, I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. But I think because it's been such of a procession in terms of the title challenge, and because they had such a surprisingly good season the season before, a lot of their players who have played well this season probably haven't got the credit they deserve. And I think one of those players is Mo Salah.
Yeah.
He's been banging in the goals. He's causing players, defences, all sorts of problems. He's had a great season, and yet a lot of the attention has been on others, and I don't really understand why, because I think Mo Salah is, he's as much to blame for Liverpool walking the Premier League title this season as anyone else. Great season from him, and for me, he slots in perfectly. If we're going to have a proper 11 in a formation, him on the right, cutting in on that left foot of his, it's the sort of thing you dread when you're facing Liverpool. Great season from Mo Salah, great season for Liverpool, pays me to say. So yeah, he makes my team of the year.
And finally, your last player in your team of the season.
Talk about sort of unexpected campaigns, unexpected season, and I think Danny Ings sums up. No one thought Danny Ings was going to have the season he's had. Certainly I didn't anyway. I think it's 21 goals in the Premier League, which is phenomenal at the time of recording this anyway. He's just exceeded all expectations. It wasn't that long ago that Southampton they looked doomed. They looked like they had no chance of getting out of the relegation fight. They got, you look back at that result against Leicester where they got battered 9-0 at home, and it just looked like the season was unravelling before it got started. They stuck with Hasenhüttl, who's done a great job, and Danny Ings has given them the goals you need, not just to survive, but to actually move up the table and get themselves into mid-table safety. Sort of not be involved in that relegation scrap towards the end of the campaign, which is just, again, it's a bit of a shock when you look back at where they were. Danny Ings, not had the easiest of time. He had a really good season at Burnley where he got into double figures when they were struggling. Got his big money move to Liverpool, and it didn't work out for him. He had that horrific injury, of course, which more or less ended his time at Liverpool. Went to Southampton to rebuild his career, and boy, has he done it. Banging in the goals. Southampton are pretty thriving. They came to Old Trafford not long ago, and they gave us a high press. They were all over us, and they were a good value for their draw. And he's been a big part of their success, because it has been a successful campaign for them. So you've got to sort of tip your hat to him, bouncing back from that injury, to go into a side that's struggling and to get as many goals as he has. It's been phenomenal. So there's probably more sort of well-respected players in the Premier League in terms of goals. You look at the likes of Vardy, you look at maybe Martial, you look at
Aubameyang,
Sadio Mane. I get why a lot of fans will be saying, why have you not included them? Why have you not gone for them? Why have you gone with Danny Ings? But look at the team he's playing for, how they were struggling, and what he's done for that team. I mean, it's been amazing.
Another saviour.
Team of saviours, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for that question. That was our Q&A extra. Don't forget to check out the other content that we have got going on at Onefootball. Thank you, Jay from Stretford Paddock, for joining. And yeah, until next time.